Hi. Hello, and welcome to the October Meetup, Philly MacAdmin October Meetup. Thanks again for Jamp for sponsoring the food and drink. We're just going to go right into what's new because there's a lot to cover this month. Okay. First up, we're going to talk about the Global Sign OCSP snafu that happened earlier this month. And then the DYN DDoS that happened on Friday. The big task T vulnerability that was subject of a 0-day, the reason why the 10.12.1 update came out on Monday and not at the same time as everything else announced today. Talking about all the other updates. Of course, the new Apple hardware that was announced today. Office updates that we talk about every month. Skype for Business that launched today. JNUC and Jamp Pro 10, which was announced last week. And the future of Mac administration. And that'll probably lead right into our open discussion. So first up, Global Sign OCSP error. So basically, Global Sign is one of the global root CAs, and apparently there was an internal error where the OCSP, they basically had an internal error where they accidentally started revoking a bunch of certificates that they shouldn't have revoked. And that caused all sorts of errors on many websites, specifically like Financial Times, Guardian, Wikipedia, LogMeIn, and Dropbox were directly affected, which, as you can imagine, led to a lot of consternation among many users. So they corrected the issue pretty quickly, but with the way certificate caching works, it actually took about 4 days for it to propagate across the entire internet. So this was a big whoops. I have some more details here that gets into the root of what actually happened. Global Sign actually has an after incident report up on their website that the article links to. So if you're interested in the nitty-gritties, that's where those are. Next up is the DYN DDoS attack. So this was the biggest DDoS attack to date. I think I read somewhere that they said it was twice as large as the prior largest attack, mainly because it involved the Mirai botnet, which is composed over of 100,000 Internet of Things devices. So, and if any of you looked into any of these Internet of Things devices, you'll know that they're notoriously insecure because all they have is, because nobody changes any of the defaults, they're all set to be wide open from the very beginning. So this is really a vendor issue, but web traffic, especially in this part of the world, was significantly affected. Lots of people were basically saying they couldn't use the internet for most of that day. And as I said, because Internet of Things devices are notoriously insecure, this will probably happen again sometime in the future until all those devices have either been secured or replaced. So, and that could take years, actually.
Did they determine if it was legit traffic, or did someone instruct the botnet?
The article says that someone instructed the botnet. This was a directed attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, directly attacked Dime's East Coast infrastructure.
Yep, directly. So yes, this was DYN is working with the feds in the criminal investigation. So yeah, this is a step up. So details here. So there's a link for that. That gets into all the nitty gritty. Again, I think the article quoted here also points back to DYN's site for an after incident report. So, and task T vulnerability. So task T is like a process that's in the XNU kernel. I think the XNU stands for X, not Unix, but I'm not entirely sure. So this was discovered by Google's Project Zero a couple of months ago. And basically, the exploit it exploits the task T process in pretty much all flavor of the OS. So this is a core OS vulnerability. It's not a very easily exploitable vulnerability, but the researcher who discovered it goes into great detail on how to exploit it. It's not something that you can just stumble upon. It's definitely a complex thing, but he found it, and it ended up requiring a complete rewrite of a specific service within the kernel in order to actually resolve this issue. Because specifically, prior mitigations in other flavors of the OS did not actually resolve the issue. So they actually had to rewrite that. The link here details that. So it shows up in the security report as on the security bulletins for all the OS updates under system boot issue. Basically, you can basically it's a, what do they say, dangling pointer issue, which is a little too far in the weeds for me. So, but for those of you who want to dig into the details, I have them listed there. So, which brings us to the OS updates, because iOS 10.1 was released, and the big feature, of course, that it brings, like portrait camera for iPhone 7 Plus, fixes the Task T vulnerability, and fixes doesn't look like a lot, but there are some major vulnerabilities that are closed, including an image handling bug that affects all versions of the OS, where someone with a malicious crafted JPEG or PDF or something else could gain elevated privileges.
I think it was a PNG was the other form.
PNG was the other one, yeah.
Yeah.
So they can get it. So that's also closed in this update. So you want to make sure you update those. And of course, TV and WatchOS also got updates. Not a lot of big details, but again, not a lot of CVEs closed on this one, but they're pretty large. So this is definitely a must for that as well. WatchOS, the same thing, almost the exact same vulnerabilities that are closed. So, and so yes, Mac OS Sierra 12.1 was released on the 25th. If you go into the details of the Task T vulnerability, you'll see you'll get a timeline. Basically, when Google first discovered it and gave Apple 90 days, and then Apple wasn't ready, so they asked Google for an extension. And apparently, they didn't get the extension until they got senior leadership involved. So, but that was only a 35-day extension. And the 35 days expired on the 25th. So that's why we got the 10.12.1 update on the 25th and not today, which I'm sure is what they were planning on. So, because as we know, people went into the weeds of the 10.12.1 update and saw they were getting the touch bar and a few other, and Touch ID. So I'm sure that wasn't what they had planned. So as I mentioned, 10.12.1 includes support for the touch bar and Touch ID. The same CVEs and processes were effective. They're closed with everything else. Specifically those that Task T vulnerability, that image handling bug. So some of these CVEs were also patched in for Yosemite and for El Capitan. So make sure that those get patched as well. Not all of them, but I think most of them. The Task T vulnerability, I'm not sure if that actually got closed, because I don't think they wanted to re-engineer prior versions of the OS, but I haven't confirmed that. So if anybody can confirm that, that would be great. And also Safari and Xcode 1 got updates. The Xcode 8.1, you would need to develop anything with the touch bar APIs. So we got new MacBook Pros today. Three models: the MacBook Pro 13-inch with the traditional function keys, or the legacy MacBook Pro now, and the two new MacBook and a MacBook Pro 13 with a Touch Bar and Touch ID, and a MacBook Pro 15 with a Touch Bar and Touch ID. The traditional one starts at $14.99, and the 15-inch starts at $23.99. So the 13-inch traditional one is available now, and the other two will be available in 2 weeks. But they'll take orders now, so there you go. So Office 2016 15.1 was released. As always, that closes some bugs, which I have detailed at the link there, and new features for O365 subscribers usually. And also Office 2011 14.69 is also been updated. I should also note that Office 2011 will be end of life October 2017, so we have less than a year for you to migrate everybody off of Office 2011 now. Okay, so yes, today Skype for Business on Mac was released this morning, actually. So one of the big things that you need to be aware of is that it's written in Swift, so it requires El Capitan or higher. So if you have Yosemite or Mavericks users still, they are stuck with Link. The other thing is that to use Skype for Business internally, you need to be running Link Server 2013 CU1 or higher. But preferably you should be running Skype for Business Server on the back end, because there are some features that Skype for Business for Mac supports that aren't in Link Server CU1. And so I have more details to the blog post there, and some known issues. There are some features that Skype users have currently that Skype for Business users don't have yet. The roadmap is that there's going to be another major update to Skype for Business in December. One of the things that will include is peer-to-peer video sharing. It's also one-to-one video sharing. Currently, you can only do screen sharing through meetings at the moment, but that's coming as well as some other features. There's a roadmap posted. I think we posted that in the Microsoft Office channel on Slack. But there's also a video where, because they did a presentation at Ignite talking about Skype for Business, which was 2 weeks ago now. And in that, they talked about the roadmap and also how Skype works. So I didn't include a link here, but I can add that link. We also posted that link, I think, in the Microsoft Office channel for that as well. But basically, it's say hello to Skype for Business on Mac. It's on YouTube if you want to look. I think in the Microsoft channel. So it's a short presentation. It's about like 35 minutes. So. But yeah, so that's available now. It's currently, if you don't already have it, it's a free download. If you were using any flavor of the Skype preview, you want to uninstall that first before you install this. Also, they recommend uninstalling Link because they don't like operating together. Yeah, so what else? Oh, I think there's probably going to be an auto package recipe for that shortly. The change to using the Microsoft Auto Update prompted a rewrite for people's auto packages recipes that were waiting for the release. So we'll see how that will have it do. So expect that within the week, I would imagine. Somebody, either Alistair or somebody has already written it. So
it was on the mailing list. Apparently, the XML is like malformed.
Yeah, and like I saw on the Microsoft channel that I think Paul is taking care of that. So that there should be an auto package recipe probably tomorrow, actually. So. All right. So JNUC was, of course, last week. This was the last JNUC that was at the Guthrie. And if you've never been to Guthrie, it's you're missing out. It's a really cool place. It's like it doesn't look as big as it is, but once you get inside, it's very large. But it wasn't large enough actually. There was like over 1,300 people at this conference, and it felt like it. So it was very crowded, lots of people, and even the overflow areas where they had some sessions in, most of them ended up being standing room only. So next year we'll be in a new location, which they haven't announced yet, but all indications is probably going to be the Minneapolis Convention Center. So yeah, so we'll go there. The big thing that came out of the JNUC this year, I began giving us a state of the union report on their deployment, was renaming Casper Suite and Bushel to Jamf Pro and Jamf Now, and was also a rebranding of Jamf as just Jamf. No Jamf software or anything, they're just Jamf. So, just Jamf.
If they have the video on,
yeah, if you watch the
video,
keynote,
you need to watch it. It's hilarious.
Oh, it is.
It's
really hilarious.
hilarious / cheesy.
Yes, and that's what makes it. You locked everybody up.
Someone get that?
No.
Just look again, let them in.
We're late. Red button.
So,
Red button.
Push the red button.
so there was a preview of Jamf Pro 10, which is what they've now calling it. So, so everything is called Jamf. There's no Casper Suite anymore. There's no JSS. It's all Jamf. And you're either talking Jamf Pro or Jamf Now. So, Jamf Pro 10 should be coming in 2017, but they didn't say when.
First half.
Well,
They said first half.
they did say first half?
He did say first half.
Okay, so first half. So within the first 6 months.
That's what he said.
So, so they did mention that the beta should start soon, but it has not started yet. But there is, as of today, a 9.9.7 beta available that you can go through. Yep. So, and that's just a link to the rebranded Jamf site. So pretty much everything that was Jamf software now redirects to jamf.com. So, and Jamf Nation is also now a subdomain. So, yeah, so that's where we're going from there. So the future. So just in this past month, a bunch of Apple SEs started going around and asking their customers to tell them about things that they're currently managing that is not manageable by profiles or via the MDM client. So this started a bit of I don't want to say panic, but a lot concern among a lot of admins, especially those that don't use an MDM currently, because there's been talk about giving very large hints that they're going to expand the MDM client functionality. So things that are currently not managed by profiles will be managed by profiles. And there was also some talk that launch daemons and agents may need to be signed going forward. Initially, the reports were that launch daemons and launch agents were going away entirely, and of course, everybody freaked out about that. But we did eventually narrow it down and say basically no, it's probably going to be some sort of SIP situation where, like with kernel extensions, they have launch daemons and launch agents need to be signed by Apple in order to work. So binaries and like MDM manufacturers that ship binaries will probably have it easy in that way. They'll just get a signing cert from Apple so they can sign their binaries and then they'll run. And while technically that shouldn't limit open source development, it may, depending on how easy it is to get that launch daemon signing certificate. So, but yeah, so there is So there's a lot of talk about this on certain sections of the admin community. And if you have an SE, an Apple SE, or any Apple contact, you want to talk to them about things you're not managing currently through profiles, and tell them that this is what you need in order to do your job. So, because there's definitely going to be a push towards more functionality for the MDM client. While I was at JNOC, I did meet with an Apple product manager and also the CTO of JNOC in a one-on-one meeting. And basically what's going to happen is, yes, they're definitely pushing towards more functionality MDM client. They basically want to get the iOS and Mac MDM portions of the client on the same level, as that will be easier for them to develop. So you expect some iOS functionality coming to MDM that's on the Mac that's currently not there. And the launch agent and launch daemon thing also came out of that meeting. Basically, they said anything that's basically said that they're not going to take away any tools until the Apple tools are currently ready. So there may be more stuff coming as well. Apple may develop other tools for us to help manage some things that are currently not managed. Yeah. So this is a call to action. Make sure you talk to your SEs about this and say, if you guys are going to do this, this is what I need. And to do that, you either talk to them directly, file bug reports, or if you have Apple Enterprise and any support, or if you have the Apple Enterprise like Alliance or higher, in which you can just open up cases willy-nilly, then go ahead and open up cases. I think, and with that, also Mike Lynn wrote a blog post about this that details everything explicitly. That link is right there in the details. And I think there was, and that may also link to a document that lists pretty much everything that's currently not managed that people have been talking about, and we can go from there. And Slack is loading it for me, so somebody might be commenting. Somebody on Slack who wants to comment?
I'm on. It looks like
some people were just saying that the streams dropped out.
Oh, okay. Good. So, and with that, we'll open it up to discussion. So.
Speaking on the last portion of the MDM side, if anybody hasn't listened to the last MacAdmins,
oh yes,
it's a really good one on the MDM.
Right, specifically they're talking with Mike Lynn about that specifically. So yeah, so I forgot to put that in, slide in for that, plug that in, but yes, the last MacAdmins podcast you want to listen to as well.
And don't get scared.
Yeah. So it's not a DEF CON thing. We're not a DEF CON 5 or whatever. It's just like, here are things that are coming down the pipe. Now's the time to make sure your voice is heard and we can get Apple to give us the things we need to do our job.
So I should put away my pitchfork.
You put away the pitchfork, save the Molotov cocktails for something else.
What I miss? When's Skype Chris is coming out?
It's out today.
It's out today?
Yes.
I thought it was right around this time.
Red button.
Red button. Out today?
It came out today. All right.
So if you push it all the way out, I should.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna start deploying it tomorrow.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to bring up actually is in 10.12.1, it looks like there is a bug in the way Mac Sleep now that if you manually set it to automatically turn on the screensaver and lock, ask for a password, if that's manually set for anything, either immediately 5 seconds, if you sleep the Mac and open it up again, it doesn't prompt you for the password. So if you're managing that specifically through a profile, that still works. So if you encounter that, there's already been a couple of bug reports. Just file this as duplicates so they make sure they close that in 10.12.2. So
Is there an open radar on it?
I haven't seen an open radar, but I know some people have filed one already. So.
Okay.
use radar for everything.
Yes, yeah, file as many, anything you find out, anybody can file a radar. It doesn't matter if it gets close as a duplicate, that just means more people have experienced it. So.
Also, it's good for, I don't know if I missed it while I was out there, it's good for, if you can't talk to an Apple
Yeah, if you don't have
professional engineer, you can
Yep.
file a radar and say, hey, I need this function, or I use this function, please.
Yeah,
open it.
you know, you're not large enough to rate your own SE. Definitely use the radar system so you can get your voice heard. So yeah, that's basically everything we have to talk about. I know I kind of went through it kind of quickly, but there's a lot of stuff this month, and I'm probably sure that I missed some things.
Monkey 282 came out.
Hmm?
Just for Jeremy, Monkey 2.8.2 came out. And 281, but that had bugs. So 282 is now. Had bugs on older versions of the OS. Because I didn't get enough feedback on like 10.6 and 10.7 functionality. So. I don't know, I'm concerned about the new MDM stuff because there's a whole lot of stuff that just, not even talking about what it can and can't manage, just things it doesn't touch. There's a lot of things that we use Monkey for, frankly. Monkey has the ability to do an install check script. So you can write a script that you can write any code that determines whether something's installed or not. You can override whether it just looks at the package receipt. So for things like ARD, I borrowed code from, I forgot his name, Armin something, scripting OS 10.
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
He wrote 2 scripts on how to check to see if SSH and ARD running, and if your account's nested in the right groups, and if the process is running, and we literally just pushed that out a month ago.
Right. Yeah, there's, in the short term, nothing is happening. And the way the Apple project manager talked to me about it was, like, they're not making any changes that'll drastically impact non-MDM stuff until they have something ready. So, but it does, and we're talking Mac OS 10.14 time frame. So we're talking about at least 2 years before all this happens.
Okay, because we heard about the SIP, I want to say 6 months before it actually happened.
Right, no, this is we're talking about 10, 14 time frame, so whatever they call that. So 2 years. So we have time, and I'm sure we'll hear more about this as it goes along. But I know, I think part of that is, I think, the AFS build needs to happen first before they start doing some other things. So, because we know it's pretty obvious that file vault is going to change or go away once AFS comes out, and there's still a lot of things that are unknown. Like how do people who limit internet access do reimages if Apple pushes everything through the recovery? If they get rid of ASR imaging and netboot, how will those shops that don't do that, and also like those shops that have like multiple worldwide locations, and how are they going to handle that as well? So those are questions that need to be asked. Also, how does MDM install software? Right now, the MDM spec through DEP can install one piece of software that's usually an agent binary, and then that's supposed to handle everything else. I know there's been some work to try and get that an open source MDM running, but at this point, it's just one guy doing it. And
there's 3 different projects headed up by 3 different people.
Right.
I think the biggest one is done by Groove.
Yes.
He's writing it in Go though. So
right. So yeah. So there's a big question about how this is going to affect the open source. MacAdmins open source community that builds tools to cover the bases that Apple forgets about. So, and it's and there's a lot of stuff there. So, I'm glad we at least got this much warning ahead of time, so we can let them know that, hey, you need to provide us stuff to do this, and this, because otherwise, we can't use Macs.
in our environment. So, but Apple definitely wants to push depth. They really want to push the IBM model on everyone as much as they can, which works great for IBM, doesn't necessarily work great for different environments, smaller environments.
It would be hell for labs. I mean, it just wouldn't work.
Right. So yeah, so there's stuff to figure out, but so IBM's model is the goal that Apple wants to get everybody to, and this MDM portion is going to be part of that. So the other thing that they mentioned, because this is a problem for us, I don't know if it's a problem for anybody else, is it's having more than one MDM solution in house. Like if we split up iOS devices and Macs. So Apple still says ideally they want you to use a single MDM, and I'd love to hear how you can merge the two. But they're well aware of the request that everybody has. That there's lots of organizations out there that have two MDM. So I don't know if they're actually going to address the dual MDM thing in the next revision of depth. It sounded like they were still discussing it when I was talking to them about it. So we'll see. But
I thought of something else too. We have an issue where people have key cards and they'll go to the Apple store, which is like 10 minutes away, and get a Mac if they just can't wait for, to go through the proper channels to get one.
right.
So we can't manage that through DEP. So if we relied on DEP for that, that computer would just never be manageable.
Right. And I think that was another thing people mentioned as well, and I got a non-committal answer on it. So I know they're aware of it, but they weren't ready to say anything about it right now. So actually, I think looking at Slack, I think Jeremy was talking about APNS.
Yep.
So one of the things that we talked about is that there's seems to be a disconnect between Apple's view of APNS uptime and what end users end up experiencing. And is that maybe a network configuration issue depending on that on the user side, but again, that's one of the things. Like, I think we need to raise awareness that this is an issue for people, and it may or may not be in their control. Because if there's something misconfigured between you and Apple that you have no control over, that's going to cause, like, you can't image for an entire day until that gets resolved. So.
You can push Mac apps to the workspace.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally like 2 or 3 weeks. What's going on here?
Yeah. So that's definitely something that needs more awareness raised over at Apple. That APNS is not as robust as they want you to believe.
Actually, that's something I want to ask. How many everybody here uses the APNS for now? For MDM?
Either for iOS or macOS.
Right.
Okay, so we don't use we don't use like the Casper built-in configuration profile utility because, frankly, it just doesn't work sometimes for us. We send it out, it'll fail 400 machines for 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden, if we make a change, it goes through. So we basically just been using profile to PKG for that to work. And I don't know if everybody else has a similar.
So you're just not using it.
Yeah, we're using it. We're doing it manually. We make a package that pushes out a mobile config, and then if we change it, it just removes it and puts it in. Because we just can't rely on APNS. It just, for some reason, it just craps out on us sometimes.
Yeah.
Is it a Jamf problem or an Apple problem?
And that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I think a lot better for us with 9.9. Yeah, like Is that what are we?
Well, okay, so there's a couple issues. The Jamf profile configuration,
Well, it's terrible.
it has issues. It'll add extra payloads.
Yeah.
So that's always a concern. And there's still those extending bugs with those extra payloads.
Yeah.
So and there's also then push. Any of those pushing the profiles is just JSS is just an import, and then it relies on Apple's APNS from there to push that out. So if there's anything messed up in that, then
But it might be also how Jamf handles the APNS
Well-
not being up or
So-
not being reachable for a second, and then it gets
During-
stuck in a.
during this whole discussion about the MDM client and the future and stuff, it was discovered that essentially the Mac client only pulls back to the APNS servers once every 6 hours. So the client only talks back to the APNS server once every 6 hours. Things push down all the time, but any sort of state information is woefully underreported.
Right.
And that's problematic in and of itself, because as admins, we need to know the state of any particular
Did it
machine
work
at any
or
given
not?
time. So, and if we're moving to a pure MDM or like almost a pure MDM world in the future, we're going to need that sort of data back in as much as possible. So, yeah, the MDM client's going to have to do a better job of reporting. And I think that's part of some of those failures, is that pushes go out there like UDP, who knows if they get to the client. And you also don't get any error states reported back. So,
Yeah, Apple States, I believe, they have up to 48 hours or something to complete the push once a command is received by them.
again, that's probably because of like the 6 hour check-in period.
Now that you mention it, I see with our iOS devices, when I push things out, if they fail or they get deferred for some reason, we only do iOS devices in Casper, but it just sort of piles up where each device has like 6 pending or failed commands, and then all the stuff after that just gets stuck.
Right,
I
you
have
have
to
to
go-
basically go in and cancel that one that's failed,
I
that
have to
hangs, and then
click
as soon as
the
you cancel it, it goes right through.
I have to cancel, I have to hit the cancel button like 50 times and then update inventory, and then everything goes through fine.
So, I mean, I'm glad to see that it's not a issue that we only have, but I'm still on the fence to figure out if it's an Apple issue or if it's a Casper issue. And Jamf won't give us any definitive answer, of course. We'll ask them, like, oh, well, it might be an Apple issue. But we have been having profile issues, and it's like, well, which is it? So that's why we've been literally making our own profiles with Apple's profile manager, packaging them up using, I think it's Tim Sutton's program, and then just pushing it out with a policy, and that seems to work far better than the APNS. So
That's what I do for him.
yeah,
When I go anywhere, because it just works.
yeah. I mean, it just seems to work better. I mean, it makes it, you also get feedback right away. Oh, it failed on 2 machines.
Yeah.
Okay, just retry.
Why can't we get feedback on configuration?
You can, but it's hit and miss, right? So if it failed, it'll tell you if it failed, but you can't just go in and be like, you can't go in and look at the policies and say retry failed once.
The way I find out is like, I'll check and see if like, like a policy that should run if it has the configuration right. I mean, I have to go around about ways of finding out configuration policies and push.
I think the way to know if it's a Jamf issue or if it's an Apple issue is try with another MDM, set up a profile manager with a couple machines.
I was going to try it on Profile Manager and see if I could push it up that way. I mean, I have it already set up so I can make the profiles since Jamf's config profiles builder is forked. Is that fixed yet?
You may be able to see.
For what it's worth,
Very little.
I could talk about Monkey all day, but Monkey supports native imports of configuration profiles just like packages. And then it declares the client based on like a hash of the profile as to whether it's installed or installed or not. So
If you looked at.
Yeah, that's another thing that irritates me about Casper. Is, I push out those profiles if they're not created in Casper Suite.
And if I don't import them in, which I don't want to because it's gonna alter it, if I do, if I look at a computer, it doesn't show me that that profile is installed. It shows blank or unknown because it's not in the system.
Follow it down.
You figure that's just a simple query to get the UID.
That's another thing missing with the points.
Can you do that with like an extension trigger?
Probably, I mean, like, there's gotta be a way to do it. I assume you could just go and do like this profiles and it'll show you a list of them. It's not gonna give you the UID or UID, whatever, UID.
Yeah.
One of those UID things.
I feel like the profiles can make my week up with this stuff.
It does, it gives you the list of them and stuff, so.
Really, because
I might have to look at it doing that, but I mean, this is stuff that's built into the program you pay for.
I think they were concentrating more on that.
And that's the other,
I think they wanted.
you're ripping out part of that.
Exactly right.
It worked before, what happened?
Just being monkey. Because monkey does, it uses the profiles command because all the profiles are saved in a database somewhere, so the only way for monkey to get at the information is through the same command, so you can probably.
And like 4 years ago, Apple versus Fire came and you can get on
It's great.
profiles, check out that Slack.
It's great.
Like, oh, man, yeah,
It's free, open source, super easy to get started. There's tons every year.
I love the two, I think maybe I'll put it on like a dev or something like that. Yeah, that's true.
So it's your file vault encryption?
Yep.
Can you, do you have a netbook for utilities you run on?
It's open source.
Or just external that you run on?
You build man hours, plus a little bit of extra on top.
The only thing I would need to run it for, if I could use those direct